Chapter 14. It had been about a week since we heard anything from the police department, and Sarah was having morning sickness every day. She wasn't really showing, but she was very tired and needed to sleep during the day, so I gave her a key to my car, and she would sleep in it if she needed to. I knew this wasn't a good situation for her, so I wanted to go and talk to her dad about this to try to make things better. I knew Sarah wouldn't approve, but I felt like it was time for me to grow up and start taking charge of the situation. I waited till the evening and walked outside with the wireless phone dialing up Mr. Ames' house. The phone barely rang and he answered. "Hello?" "Yes, Mr. Ames, this is Ellis Page." His voice immediately changed to a less than favorable tone. "Yes, what is it that you need, Ellis?" I could tell right away this is going to be a man-to-man talk. "Sir, I believe that you and I need to talk." "Oh, well, I don't know that there's too much to say between us. Ellis, do you know where Sarah is?" "I do, but I'm not going to tell you anything until we get a few things straight." "Is that so, Ellis?" "You know, I can have you taken into the station for this on kidnapping charges." "Kidnapping? Sarah asked to stay with me. I didn't ask her. Therefore, if you want to press charges, go ahead, but you still won't know where Sarah is." After a silence, I laid out my demands. "First, Mr. Ames, Sarah's the most important thing to me. I love her." "You don't even know what love is, Ellis. You're just a young, inexperienced kid." "Maybe, but I know what it's not. It's not turning your back on your daughter when she needs you the most. You didn't even listen to what she had to say about being pregnant. You just told her how things are going to be. Things are not always that simple. There are people involved, Mr. Ames." I could tell that Mr. Ames didn't like what I was telling him because he was getting shorter with his answers. "Listen, Ellis, you need to tell me where my daughter is. You're running out of time." "What do you mean I'm running out of time?" "Let's just say you're the #1 suspect in the Mathers case." "Oh, really? And why would I be the #1 suspect?" "Well, because my daughter's pregnant with Mathers' baby, and I know that pisses you off. 2, he was last seen in your area by a witness." "Witnesses? What witnesses would that be?" "Ellis, I'm not at liberty to discuss this at this time. The hammer came from your residence, and I think it's just a matter of time before they find your fingerprints on the handle." "This is bullshit, and you know it, Mr. Ames." "Is it, Ellis?" "It's all real if they make it real, and they can do that, you know." "Are you that pissed off at me that you'd pin a murder on me?" "Ellis, you need to stay away from my daughter, or I will help you stay away." Mr. Ames abruptly hung up the phone. I was holding the dial tone in my hand. I hung up the phone. "All right, that went well." I immediately dialed Chev's number. "Meet me in the place we just were in about a half an hour." "You mean at the—" "Chev, don't say anything over the phone. They could be listening on my phone line." I ran straight out and jumped into the car and headed to the park. There are quite a few turns onto different streets before I get to the park, and I noticed a brown truck following me. I looked in the mirror, but the windshield was so dark I couldn't get a really good view of who it was. Just to be sure, I waited until I knew that I could make 4 turns and just go around the block to see if they really were following me. And sure enough, I made 4 turns, and so did they. I knew I had to shake this tail because if I couldn't get to Chev and Sarah and let them know what was happening, then I may be a goner. I waited to make my move at the next big intersection. The light turned yellow and I slowed down almost to a stop and waited for cross traffic to start to flow. The second the light turned red, I punched it, slamming my foot on the gas, just missing the cross traffic, providing a block for my exit. I never looked back and headed directly to the park. When I arrived, I parked off to the side so I could see Chev and Sarah when they entered. As they pulled up, I waved them over. I could see their silhouettes in the car, and I started to feel a bit uncomfortable about it. I noticed that there were 3 people in the car, not 2 like I expected. Chev drove over and parked right next to me. I looked in the car and it was Sarah, Chev, and Rave. I jumped out of the car and told Chev to come with me. Chev, the hell is Rave doing here? Relax, he said he could help. Help? Hell, he can help bury me. Sarah walked over. Ellis, are you okay? I hesitated to answer. I'm fine, Sarah. Well, not really. I didn't want to say anything because I didn't know what was up with Rave and what his involvement was in this whole thing. Chev, I'll talk to you and Sarah, but not Rave. I don't trust him anymore. Chev motioned to Rave to stay in the car. Sarah, this is going to be difficult to hear. I'm hoping that you have an open mind. I hesitated to start telling the story, but I knew I had to. Sarah, what Ellis is trying to tell you is that Clarice died at his house. Ellis, is that true? Yes, it is. Clarice died at my house, but I'm being set up somehow. I've been hiding this for quite a while, trying to figure this whole thing out. Sarah just stared at me. I think your dad has something to do with this. My dad? Sarah yelled. Rave perked his head up as if he was listening more intently. Why would my dad have something to do with this? I shook my head and raised my shoulders, saying, I don't know. Rave butted in. I bet I know. Oh, you do? I said to Rave. I started to explain a bit more to Sarah. Sarah, I talked to your dad trying to make things better for you, and he all but told me that he'd kill me if I didn't stop seeing you. Oh my God, Ellis. When my dad and I talked about me being pregnant, he used the word kill. Also, no, wait, not kill, but remedy. Remedy. I've heard this before, and it's always connected to death. Listen, you guys, I need to say a few things, Rave said. What, Rave? I belligerently responded. Now, I'm just going to give you the hearsay story on this one. I don't know a lot of this firsthand. Do you remember when Bo's father got into trouble for hiring a hitman, so to speak, to do his mother in? Yes, I remember, Rave. I can remember the newscast when Mr. Ames used the phrase that the situation had been attempted to be remedied, and it came out later that someone was having an affair with Bo's mother. Okay, Sherlock, then what about Clarice, and how am I involved in all this? I can't answer that right now, Ellis, but I do know this. Ames will stop at nothing until he gets you, in one way or another. He has way too much power in the police department, which allows him to sweep everything under the rug. Rave, you talk like you know all this firsthand. Sarah interrupts. Ellis, I think I need to go talk to my dad and find out what's going on. Sarah, no way, I shouted. Ellis, I can talk to him. He'll listen to me. Sarah, I don't want you to do that because he knows he can use you against me. You have to trust me, Ellis. Sarah, it's not that I don't trust you, it's that I don't trust him. Ellis, we need to find a place to hide you and Sarah until we can figure this out, suggested Chev. Yes, I know that, but where? I think we can hide you guys in the last place that they would ever look, the mines. The mines? Chev, how's that going to work for Sarah in her condition? Rave and I can bring you wood and food until we sort this out. Try to make it comfortable. Do you have any better ideas, Ellis? Rave jumps in. Somehow we need to dig up some dirt on Mr. Ames. Hey, what about Sarah? Chev says. What about Sarah? I responded. Rave explains Sarah may have some knowledge of incriminating stuff about her dad. Work on it, Ellis. We need all the help we can get. As we are walking for our cars, I can see at the park's entrance that the brown truck has started to slowly drive into the park, driving as if they're looking for someone. Hey, that's the truck that was following me. Following you? Chev questioned. Yes, when I was coming here, I noticed that the truck was following me, and I ditched him. The truck drove on the main road of the park area and slowed when they were straight across from us. They took a long look, and then they took off. I opened the door for Sarah, and I let her into the car, closing the door after she sat down. Guys, I have to stop at my house to get a few things before we go up to the mines. Ellis, let's meet at the gate of the mines at 4 p.m.